In color, the continuing story of Peyton Place. Starring Dorothy Malone as Constance Mackenzie, Ed Nelson as Michael Rossi, Ryan O'Neill as Rodney Harrington, Barbara Parkins as Betty Anderson, Tim O'Connor as Elliot Carson, Christopher Conley as Norman Harrington, Patricia Morrow as Rita Harrington, James Douglas as Stephen Cord.
Rachel Wells has returned to the sanctuary of the Carson home, carrying with her the secret fear that Jack Chandler is dead. Jack Chandler, the man she thought she escaped when she came to Peyton Place. Chandler followed her to his old farmhouse. In a moment of terror, she struck out at him, hitting him with a heavy candlestick. She watched him fall to the floor. In Rachel's mind, the idea of self-defense has not yet taken shape. All she knows at this moment is that because of her, a human being may be dead.
Here's your stamps. Oh, thank you. These are prettier than the others. Yes, very pretty. May I ask you a question? Mm-hmm. What's a classic?
A classic? Oh, that's a book that lives on and on long after its author's dead. People keep finding new things in it. You might say it's a book that's alive.
You mean like the Bible?
Yes, a classic usually tells a story.
Well, the Bible tells lots of stories.
Yes, but a classic usually tells one story about one person or one thing or something.
Is this a classic?
Mm-hmm.
Crime and Punishment. What's it about?
I guess I should read it again. It's been so long. It's about a young man that was so poor that he thought he could do anything and not be punished for it. So he began planning the perfect crime.
What did he do?
Oh, he killed someone.
Who?
An old woman. A pawnbroker and her sister. He even took jewelry out of their house.
Did they catch him?
Not at first.
Well, what happened to him?
Well, when the police found the two old women, they started looking for the killer.
Did he run away?
No.
Wasn't he afraid they'd find him?
Well, they asked him to come down to the station for questioning.
Did they put him in jail?
No. They just wanted to ask him about some money he owed his landlady.
What about the murder?
He was so frightened, he almost told them about it. Then he realized they didn't suspect him, so he didn't say anything.
You said they didn't catch him at first. When did they find him?
Well, they never really caught him. He turned himself in.
Why?
Are you really that interested?
Yes.
Well, why don't you take a copy of the book home and read it? You'll find it a lot more interesting.
No, I'd like you to tell me now what happened to him.
But that's the point of the whole story, Rachel. And the author tells it a lot better than I ever could.
Please.
Well, the rest of the story is just about his guilt, how he tortures himself so that he finally turns himself in and confesses the crime.
What did they do to him?
Well, that isn't what matters. It's what he did to himself. The longer he put off confessing, the more he suffered. And that was his real punishment.
Mrs. Carson?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for telling me about it. Maybe I will read it.
Oh, I think you'll enjoy it. Bring those other books down there, would you, Rachel, please? What's the matter? He still frightens you, doesn't he?
No, I didn't know he was. I just didn't know he was there, that's all.
Come in, Stephen.
I'm on my way to the mill. Where will I meet you?
Meet me?
Yes, the front gate, Harrington's outer office. Unless you'd rather ride down in my car with me.
I don't follow you.
It's very simple. I have no intention of riding in the same car with Lee Weber.
You know the reasons why I hired him.
Your stated reasons.
Well, can't you accept his presence a little more reasonably?
How do you accept a killer's presence reasonably? How do you ignore that fact and ride behind him? I can't. I haven't the stomach for it.
Well, suit yourself. And if your stomach is equal to the task, remind Weber on your way out to turn on the heater so the car will be warm.
I'll tell him.
Well, Mr. Cord, you all set to go? I was just taking your grandfather's coat.
Bring the car to the front door.
It's there.
And be sure the heat is running.
I already thought about that. You see, when you reach Mr. Peyton's age, well, you really feel the cold. As a matter of fact, I even filled his flask for him.
Weber, unless otherwise instructed, you're to remain downstairs.
Says who?
You're the chauffeur. You have no duties above the first floor.
Is that direct from the chief, or are you just speaking for yourself?
By the chief, you mean my grandfather, Mr. Peyton?
You don't have to keep saying my grandfather, Mr. Payne. I'm well aware that you're a member of the family, Stephen.
Don't smart off at me, Weber. We both know you don't belong in this house. It's simply an old man's whim.
And as long as he wants me here, I stay.
Right now, it may amuse my grandfather to scandalize this town by having you as a chauffeur, but that won't last.
You can't count him out of it. He's too tough, and he's got too much class. He doesn't have to be a snob.
Well, you're here, and that won't be for long. Stay out of my way.
My pleasure, Mr. Cord.
And out of my wife's way.
Make sure you tell your grandfather that I have his car waiting for him.
So now I'm the chief.
If you can be flattered by that animal's admiration.
Come, Stephen. For a man to be respected in Weber's world is at least proof of the ability to survive.
You don't know anything about Weber's world. You'd survive there just about as long as a house cat in a jungle. Don't underestimate the animal. It has cunning. It had enough cunning to set me up as a target for Chris Weber.
What?
He wanted to frame his own brother for my murder.
And how, may I ask, did he propose to bring that off?
He primed me with a cock and bull story that Chris was about to commit suicide, and I was supposed to dissuade him. And then he sent me into his home to face his blind brother who was waiting for Lee with a gun.
Obviously, he didn't fire it.
Oh, but he did. I was lucky he was blind. That would have been a very neat trick. Two enemies knocked off with the same bullet. One dead and the other jailed for life.
And why wasn't he? I don't recall reading that Chris Weber had been arrested.
He wasn't.
Ah, I see. You allowed Chris Weber to go free. Such compassion might be construed as a weakness in a man who someday may be county prosecutor.
We're not talking about Chris Weber or my political future. The subject is Lee Weber, the murderer you brought under your roof. To see that he doesn't escape justice, well, that's hogwash. What do you expect, that he's going to break down and confess?
I have Lee Weber here where I can observe him, learn his weaknesses. It will be premature to plan anything more beyond that now.
Except to look forward to the pleasure of humiliating me.
For a moment, I was convinced that you were concerned with my safety.
I'm very deeply concerned.
Well, I'll meet you in the anteroom to Leslie's office in about 20 minutes. I hope. But don't fret if I'm a little late. The roads are icy.
Read that last sentence back, please.
We shall expect the customary shipment of samples in advance of confirmation. Very truly yours, Leslie Harrington.
Thank you. You can send them in now.
Mr. Chandler?
Foreman said you were looking for me first thing this morning. Sorry I was late. Had a little accident last night, Mr. Harrington.
Do you have anything else to say before I fire you?
Fire me?
Listen, Chandler, Forrest, or whatever your name is. I went 15 rounds with a man named Elliot Carson because of you.
Elliot Carson?
I've no time for your innocent act.
I don't know what you're talking about, Mr. Harrington.
Don't give me that. I want to know what's been going on between you and Carson. I want to know why he's so hot under the collar about you. I want to know what you've done.
Carson's been barking at my heels ever since I stepped foot in this town.
He's no fool, and neither am I. What have you been hiding?
You got to believe me, Mr. Harrington. My niece Rachel happened to find a bracelet out by our way. It just happened to belong to Carson's daughter. The girl has been missing. Allison, that's her name. Ever since then, this guy Carson's been breathing down the back of my neck, Mr. Harrington, like I got his daughter in my pocket or something.
I know all that.
Yeah, everybody knows all that. He's done everything but take an ad out in the paper.
Are you going to tell me what else has been going on between you and Carson?
Nothing else has been going on. It's not my fault. The only thing that's turned up since the girl's been missing is a stupid bracelet.
All right, get your check and get out of here.
Now, wait a minute.
Carson and I don't get along. We've had quite a history. Quite a history. He hasn't been in this office in over a year, and he wouldn't have come in today if he hadn't had a good reason.
There is another reason why Carson wants to get me into trouble, force me out of town. They took Rachel away from me. Carson's have Rachel living with him now. That's the reason why Carson and his wife want me out of the way. They lost their own daughter, now they want my Rachel. I raised Rachel like she was my daughter. There was a real strong feeling between us. Now they've turned her against me, turned her head with their fancy home and the fancy clothes they bought her. The only reason I came to this town was to watch over her, to stay close by so that she could come by if she needs me.
That's your story.
It's the truth, but they don't want that. They're afraid if I stay around, they can't be sure she won't run back to me. Look, you trusted me once, Mr. Harrington. Oh, okay, it was 20 years ago, but we talked over a deal and I would have gone through with it, you know that. If someone else hadn't killed Elizabeth Carson, I would earn my fee.
Is that some sort of threat? Do you think I'm afraid of you? Here. Call the police. Tell them what we plan. Go ahead, come.
You know they wouldn't believe me after all these years. And even if they did, I'd be cutting my own throat.
All right, get out.
Now, wait a minute. I kept quiet, didn't I? If I wasn't the kind of guy who keeps his word, I would have gone to the cops. And they'd have taken it easy on me if I'd agreed to blow the whistle on you, but I didn't do it. And I didn't try to blackmail you either. Doesn't that prove that you can trust me? Look, I need money. I'm trying to sell my farm, but I don't have any buyers. It's not in good shape. It's not clean.
Elliot Carson wants to see your employment application.
If he wants to waste his time, that's his business. I don't care about him. All I care about is you're not firing me. I gotta earn some money.
I suppose you think you could be far away by the time he started checking on you.
What's he gonna check? I got nothing to hide, I swear.
All right. But if I give it to Carson and he finds something, anything, you've had it.
You're not gonna fire me?
No.
Mr. Harrington, thanks. You go ahead, you show my application. I'm clean, not a speck of dirt on me.